What you are about to watch is one part of a series recorded by well-respected psychic medium Anthony Grzelka, Australia's Ghost Whisperer. The opinions and views expressed throughout this series are based on Anthony's own personal beliefs. The basis of these beliefs has been developed through the 12,000 plus connections he has made with the spirit world.
Haunted houses. All the time I get asked about haunted houses, and it's actually an interesting part of my job. And I think if I had $1 for every time someone rings up and says, I've got a haunted house, you've got to come and see it because something terrible's happening. And indeed, the work that I do includes visiting people's houses and seeing what's going on there and having a connection to that. I want to say though, out of all of the houses I've been to that are allegedly haunted and people are a bit worried about things and things that are happening around there, I would say 90% of them are nothing to worry about. 90% of them, when I go to someone's house and they said, oh my God, this moved or this happened, I'm hearing this knocking, 90% of the time I'll go there and it's actually just their grandmother or their grandfather. And what happens is your grandmother wants to let you know she's around. So she's there and she's around you, and so she moves the glass a couple of inches. Of course, you go, oh my God, quick, you get a priest, get Anthony, get somebody that can see what's going on here. So I roll up at your house and I see this little old lady who's your grandmother going, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, I didn't mean to scare them. So, 90% of the time it's very, very harmless. It's just friends and family. It's not something to be too concerned about. I think television and Hollywood have probably made it something that we put in our mind that, every little bump in the night is a ghost trying to haunt us, and that there was going to be green vomit and heads spinning around and all those sorts of things. 90% of the time it's nothing like that. It's just friends and family that come to visit. I also have to say, not every light globe that pops is a ghost or a spirit trying to say hello. Sometimes you've got a dodgy light. You don't need to panic about it, okay? So not every light globe that pops is going to be someone trying to come through. Of course, if that same light globe goes all the time and you've had an electrician out and everything's good and there's no reason for it to happen, well then maybe something is happening, but don't panic yourself into thinking that, just because something's happening, you've got a ghost. I would say also that something really interesting that people don't realise with ghosts and haunted houses and things like this is that sometimes you unwittingly bring a ghost into your house by bringing objects into your house. I'll share an interesting story with you. A few years ago, there was a lady in America that I was doing a reading for, and she was having lots of strange things happen in her house. There was lots of noises and smells, and smells and noises are something that are a bit synonymous with hauntings. You'll get bangs on walls and doors, you'll get smells around the house that you're not familiar with. And this particular lady was having all of those things. And she could see no reason why this was happening. And I said to her, have you bought anything into your house recently? And she said, well, I'm actually an antiques dealer. And she'd bought a very old rocking chair. And I said, look, I think this is your problem. And she said, it's funny because I bought this 3 months ago and this is all this sort of stuff starting to happen, banging and noises and all these sorts of things. And we basically discovered that the rocking chair was haunted. Now it was a very, very early rocking chair. It went back, a few hundred years. Turns out she actually got it from Salem, which is synonymous for the witch hunts back in the 16th century. So we could only assume that it had something to do with Salem and the witch hunts and all of this sort of thing. But she got rid of the chair. The problem stopped immediately. So sometimes objects can be haunted as much as a place or a location can be haunted. So it's really important that you understand it's not just people that can be haunted or places, it can be objects as well. There is a lot of people sort of say to me, well, what happens if I've got a haunted house? What do I do if these things are happening? Now, generally most people are quite capable of just living with spirits. In fact, I think it's a pretty cool thing having a ghost in the house myself, but it's not something to be too scared of. The only time it becomes a real problem is if you're waking up and you feel threatened by a spirit, or you're waking up and you have scratches on your body that are unexplained. If poltergeist activity, and a poltergeist will throw things and and make things very, very difficult for you by throwing things and leaving marks on your body, then it becomes a problem, and you probably do need to get someone like myself involved to sort of see what's happening and what can be done about it. I'll tell you a story actually that will sort of highlight this a little bit. I was doing a radio investigation with a radio station. We went to a haunted house, and this was really interesting, this haunting, because it was a 2-story house. It was a split-level house, and the very first thing I saw when I walked into the house was this really big Rottweiler dog. And I thought, my gosh, this dog is... And it was a spirit dog. It was standing there. It was very protective of the family. And I actually said to the owner of the home, I said, look, I can see this big old Rottweiler dog here. He's very protective of your family. And she got very emotional, as people do when pets come through. But she actually took her shirt off, and I thought, what's going on here? And she took her shirt off, and there was a big tattoo of the exact dog that I was seeing, this spiritual dog. It was her favourite dog, and it was tattooed on her shoulder. But what I noticed with this dog was it was very protective at the base of the stairs. It wouldn't leave the base of the stairs. And it was very protective of the family. And I sort of said to them, listen, is most of your activity upstairs? And they said, actually it is, Anthony. All of the activity seems to be upstairs. So when I went upstairs, I did notice there was a male spirit up there that was causing a lot of trouble. And I actually said to the homeowners, I said, you know, you two, when you're up here in your bedroom, you guys must feel very aggressive towards each other. You must get very anxious. And indeed, that's what was happening. They were getting very anxious. They would fight a lot when they were upstairs. And it was this male spirit, I believe, had fallen in love, believe it or not, with this lady, the owner of the home. And he was very protective of her and was very jealous of the husband. But the interesting thing was that he would never come downstairs, and that's because of the dog. The dog was at the base of the stairs, stopping the spirit coming down and interacting with the family. So he was really confined to the upper levels of the house. But, you know, they were having a serious problem here because this spirit was getting involved and causing them problems, and there are arguments and things like this. So spirits can interact like that, and haunted houses and ghosts and things can cause these sorts of problems. Do you know the other thing with ghosts and spirits that might be haunting a location or haunting a place is that they really can't do much to you. You know, they can't really hurt you. There's this whole idea, and I think again Hollywood and the movies have caused this fear in people that are sort of, you know, they're frightened of ghosts and you know what happens around them. And the thing that you need to be very aware of is that ghosts and spirits will actually feed on the fear that we produce. That's where they get the energy from. They really feed on the energy of the fear that we have when they do something, or something happens in the house and we get scared. They feed on that fear. So it's very, very important that you, if possible, not become too scared. I know it's difficult when terrible things are happening or frightening things are happening, but fear is the biggest problem here. There is something you can do. There is and this might sound a bit hocusy-pocusy, but there's actually a thing called American white sage that I've used to great effect in haunted places or places where there are spirits that manifest quite openly. Now, when you burn this stuff, this American white sage, and it has to be the American white sage because I felt, you know, when you burn that I feel that works the best. I've seen lots of other things. It's called smudging. The American Indians used to do it a lot. When you burn this white sage, it actually brings the frequency of a room back to neutral. It takes away the available energy for a spirit to manifest, because when there's energy available, a spirit will manifest. If you take away that energy, and sage tends to do that by changing the frequency, when you burn this American white sage, it changes the frequency in a room and takes away the available energy for a spirit to manifest and communicate or connect to us in some way here. So by burning sage, it takes away the vibration, the frequency that they would use. It just sort of levels it out. It's also very good if you are... if there's a lot of conflict in an area or there's a lot of negative energy in a room, it helps level it out and bring it back to a neutral sort of frequency. So it's a very good thing to use for that. I can remember a few years ago doing an investigation in a house in Donnybrook, a place that is local to me here. And when we talk about spirits haunting locations and we talk about ghosts haunting places, this investigation was really, really quite significant, and in fact it held up my last book, Spooked, because I needed to get this story into the book because it was such a really important story. And this is very, very typical of haunted houses in actual fact. When I went out to this house, there was a mother and she had 3 teenage daughters. And for some reason, girls who are pubescent or even prepubescent, they have a huge amount of energy around them, and spirits use that energy to manifest and create things. And in this house, there was 3 pubescent girls and the mum. So it was a perfect storm for a ghost. And there were lots of things happening. Sofas would move, loud bangings in the night that would wake them up. There was a lot of really weird things that were happening. But one of the strangest things was, when I went into this house and I was about to leave, this lady said to me, "You've just got to come into the kitchen. I've got to show you something really strange." And on the kitchen table and on the Laminex in the kitchen, there were 2 crucifixes burnt into the table, one into the table and one into the laminate in the kitchen. And they were burnt. It looked like they were burnt into the timber and into the Laminex. And they really tried to, this happened about 6 months before I got there, and they tried to get the crosses off the Laminex and off of the timber, and they were still very, very visible. And I walked into the kitchen and I put my hand on the crucifix. I wanted to see whether it was just something on the Laminex or whether it was actually burnt in. And as I put my hand on the Laminex, the cross disappeared under my hand. It was the strangest thing. There was no residue, there was no oil, there was nothing on my hand. The crucifix just disappeared. How it happened, why it happened, it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever experienced. But after that event, things seemed to settle down in the house, and a lot of the energy dissipated, and they didn't have the strange events that had been happening. So one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. So the thing to really say about haunted houses is don't be scared. Okay, spirits can't hurt you generally. It's not something you need to be frightened about. It's generally just going to be mum or grandma or someone that's just come to say hello and sort of say, hey, we're around. Okay, so don't be scared of it. There's really nothing to be too frightened of.
To watch more in this series, or for further information on Anthony, his books, meditation CDs, workshops, ghost tours, or to book a private reading, please visit whispersfrombeyond.com.au.